And yeah, basically I'm gonna go through the agenda for today. You can see my screen, right? You can also see the agenda right now. Perfect. So yeah, basically we're gonna first do introduction to YouthProAktiv and also to the general project, the KA2 project, that the main reason why we're here today. Then we're gonna move to the main part of the webinar, that it's the round table, and we're going to start with a presentation of our panelists, Constanze Stockhammer, Bart Pierre, and Chandler Jefferson. Thank you very much for being here and for contributing to this project. And then we're going to move to the main debate roundtable about what is social entrepreneurship, and we're going to finish with the Q&A and the closure of the webinar. Of course, as we do the roundtable, I'm going to repeat this again, but feel free to raise your hand and ask questions or insights or to contribute to the discussion. If we see that we have a lot of questions, then we're going to move to the main questions and to the debate, and we're going to leave the questions to the end of the webinar. But of course, feel free to do so meanwhile. So yeah, basically, yeah, we're gonna do the welcome part and the presentation. So I'm gonna present myself. I'm Marina. I'm Marina Jerry, project manager at YouthProAktiv. And YouthProAktiv, for those of you who don't know us, we're an international coalition, international organization based in Brussels. But we are gathering more than 57 national organizations across Europe and neighboring countries. And yet we aim to create a generation of proactive individuals ready to invest their talents for the betterment of society. And we work a lot with Erasmus Plus projects on education, advocacy, entrepreneurship, sustainability, and of course, social entrepreneurship. So yeah, we are coordinators of this KA2 Erasmus Plus project that I'm going to be presenting briefly now, that it's called Social Entrepreneurship as Enabler of Social Inclusion, jointly with our partners that you can see. Sorry, I'm going to move to the first. You can see here ReGeneracja from Poland, Espacio, Geranios from Spain, Imagine Apps from Spain, and AIDE from Romania, that are also present in this webinar as partners. So thank you very much, and also the participants that joined through these organizations. So thank you very much for the collaboration and for being here. And yeah, this being said, we're gonna be focusing on briefly what is SESI and what are we trying to do with SESI. So basically, the main goal is to promote a model of inclusion for disadvantaged young people by tapping into the potential of social entrepreneurship for revitalization, solution of local challenges, and economic boost. So we have 4 big objectives. The first one is to follow a youth work approach. So in general, through YouthProAktiv projects, we focus on youth work as the perfect channel to reach youngsters and to ensure sustainability among local development opportunities. Then also our objective is to focus on a collection of best practices that now actually has been finalized. So in the second webinar that we're going to be doing, we're going to be sharing this collection of best practices that has been developed by our partner Espacio, Geranios, and it's basically a collection of sustainable social entrepreneurship projects specifically in Spain. And it's really inspiring and can serve as inspiration for youth workers to share with youngsters and for youngsters themselves. So that's the second objective. Then we're also going to be developing a training program, so in order to provide know-how and resources to youth workers on how to approach social entrepreneurship to youngsters. and also to build capacity for rural and disadvantaged young people to start social projects through interaction and collaboration with youth workers and experts. Also, that's why we're doing this webinar, no, to create this network of people who are interested, already working inside the field of social entrepreneurship, and stakeholders related to that, and create this network to provide know-how and exchange resources among the people interested. So basically, the target groups of this project are youth workers, young people from 16 to 30, youth organizations, social enterprises, and social entrepreneurs, policymakers, and in conclusion, local communities who can benefit from this project. Basically, in order to finish with the presentation of the project, here you have, in order to understand, if I don't know if you've been familiar with K2 projects, Erasmus Plus projects, but basically they are organized with work packages, and the first work package is about project management and organization, so that's why it's not here. But the second one is collection of best practices. That was the one that we closed in November. This first package was to like have the grounding basis and the network, and to start creating the connections with the experts and organizations in order to develop properly the rest of the activities throughout the project. And also it was where the collection of best practice was developed. Then we have work package 3, that is understanding social entrepreneurship, and we are now currently work package 3, where this cycle of webinars is happening, and other activities that I'm going to be sharing. And work package 4, it's connecting and enabling social entrepreneurs, that it's going to be more joining like social entrepreneurs who are already working, who have succeeded or not succeeded with youth workers and with youngsters, in order to inspire and promote social entrepreneurship among the youth. And finally, the international community of young social entrepreneurs, that it's going to be the international workshops that we're going to be doing with the partners that we have around Europe, that again are Poland, Spain, Romania, and us, Belgium. So basically, to have this roadmap, exactly, work package 2 was the stakeholder mapping and program co-design. So here we were co-designing the international forum that happened in Madrid, that was a success in October, and here the multi-stakeholder focus groups were also like, we were inviting different stakeholders in our countries, in Belgium, Spain, Poland, and Romania, to start this understanding of social entrepreneurship and to create this network. Now we are here in work package 3. Here you can see the cycle of webinars, networking, and brainstorming opportunities to also develop later different audiovisual content that we're going to be sharing in our website. Again, here we're going to be doing 3 audiovisual pills about social entrepreneurship, specifically targeting young people, because we're going to be sharing them through our social media platforms. And then we're going to be, this is super interesting as well, we're going to be doing a matching up sessions between 1 social entrepreneur and 2 youth workers, in order to explore local case studies for social business, and to give recommendations and steps and guidelines for these youngsters. Then we're gonna have this more for the transnational activities. This work package, we're going to be doing a transnational activity in Romania, defining the business idea, another one about financial literacy in Poland, and the final one, taking on, taking off, that it's going to be more exactly like joining youth workers with youngsters and actually start the development of their social business idea in Belgium. And through all of this, it's going to be a follow-up coaching session in order to make sure that the projects and the ideas are sustainable and are actually implemented. Finally, we're going to be having this like the exploitation part of the project. So we're going to be doing again different international multi-stakeholders webinar in order to promote everything that we've been doing throughout the project, a policy briefing on social entrepreneurship as a mean for social inclusion, and then a final conference of the SESI Project that it's going to be happening in Brussels in 2025, because this year this project is a 2-year project, but still. If you're in Brussels or if you're from one of the partner countries, in 2025 you're going to be invited to this final conference and to all the different activities that we're going to be doing. So yeah, more or less, I hope it was not too fast. In any case, it was to have, in order to understand why are we doing this webinar, you know, and why is it interesting to engage in this discussion. And also at the end of the webinar, you have my contact already, so don't hesitate to contact us for any questions, or if you're willing to engage in one of the activities of the project. This being said, I'm super excited to start with the round table that we're going to be having 3 experts that now are going to be presented, and YouthProAktiv is going to be moderating this webinar. And again, so this cycle of webinars is going to starting with this one, what is social entrepreneurship? And then in January, we're going to have 2 more, one on how is social entrepreneurship impacting local communities in a positive way, and the third one is going to be more on the policy framework behind social entrepreneurship at the European level and at the national level of our partner countries as well. But we thought that it would be super interesting to exactly start with what is social entrepreneurship, and the discussion is going to be focusing on different questions. And in order to before jumping into the different questions, I'm going to be presenting the panelists. So first, Constanze Stockhammer, she's Managing Director at Social Entrepreneurship Network Austria. Thank you very much for joining, Constanze. And I'm going to be doing the same with all the speakers, but if before moving to the questions, if you could briefly introduce yourself in terms of like, what is your relationship with social entrepreneurship, and what is your work nowadays? Thank you very much for being here.
Me too. Me too.
Yes, likewise. Thank you.
Perfect. Bart Pierre, well, I'm gonna be asking the same question, so maybe later if you want, you can answer what is your relationship with social entrepreneurship, but also to introduce Bart and Chandler. Bart Pierre is a PhD candidate at VUV in Brussels, the university, driving impact through social entrepreneurship ecosystem development. Also, Bart has been managing an Erasmus Plus project, if I'm not mistaken, on social entrepreneurship as well, with many different partners from Latin America. So maybe also later can also share a little bit of that. And Chandler Jefferson, thank you very much also for being here. He's head of startups at We Make Change, supporting impact startups and social enterprises to make change in the world. So also, if you want to start, like, to briefly introduce yourself with this order, Constanze, Bart, and Chandler. So Constanze, the floor is yours to briefly have the floor.
Oh, thank you very much, Marina. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, as you said, I'm the managing director of the Social Entrepreneurship Network Austria, and we are the interest representation and umbrella organization of the Austrian social entrepreneurs. Currently, we have around 130 members, and they are increasing every day. And we're focusing on, of course, in the core, supporting our members, supporting the social entrepreneurs and all the things and all the issues they have to deal with when founding, operating, scaling up a social business. But of course, we're also very active in promoting the topic of social entrepreneurship in Austria in general, in society, but foremost on political level. And recently, we have achieved the milestone in this regard with the introduction of the verified social enterprise registration last December 2022, which for the first time enables to identify and externally validated proof social enterprise proof that a social enterprise is a social enterprise, which before was really tricky because every particular or in general everybody could call him or herself to lead a social enterprise without any proof or any sanctions if it was not the case. And now we have some officially validated and issued by the Ministry of Economic Affairs label to show these are our social enterprises in Austria.
Congratulations. Also, like I remember we with the international forums that we did, Constanza already explained this success. So yeah, congratulations. That's one of the questions that we're gonna be answering now, because it's the definition of social entrepreneurship. It's quite broad, and actually, like in many countries it's not still identified. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing. Bart, if you wanna go.
Yes, please. Hello everyone, my name is Bart Leyen, and I'm a PhD candidate at the VUB, the Free University of Brussels. My research focuses on how to develop an ecosystem for social entrepreneurs, and with this I mean an environment that is able to connect, to support, and to nurture new social enterprises. That's a bit my aim on it, how to develop this kind of support structures in the form of maybe an incubator, a network organization, or even universities, and see what they can do, how to coordinate this kind of support and make sure that these social entrepreneurs get everything what they need. Besides research, I'm also actively engaged in projects from the European Union. For instance, I am the project manager of ELANET, which is the European Latin American Network in Support of Social Entrepreneurs. This is a university-based ecosystem of partners across Europe, Bulgaria, Italy, Austria, Belgium, and Latin America, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Colombia. And what we did is we made a platform, a very nice website, and here we visualize a bit the ecosystem and see what activities are useful for the social entrepreneurs from the perspective of the university, because universities, they have a lot of resources and capabilities and a big network. So those things can also be used to support social entrepreneurs instead of regular entrepreneurs. And I'll put in the chat the link to the website. So thank you.
Super, Bart. Thank you very much for the link. And I'm sure that all the expertise and the experience is going to be helpful for the questions and the discussion later. So thank you. Last but not least, Chandler, if you want to.
Yeah, certainly. Hello, everyone. Thank you for hosting us today, Marina and YouthProAktiv and all the partner organizations. Yeah, my name is Chandler Jefferson. I'm the head of startups at We Make Change. And what we do is we provide a platform for social enterprises and impact startups to source skilled volunteers remotely from around the world to help them with all of their business challenges. So we started off as a platform really with a goal of how could we get individuals to be able to volunteer to something that they are passionate about. Something maybe different than just the 10K fun run or the fundraising drive or something. Those things are all great, but of course, looking towards 2030 and achieving the goals, we developed this platform to give individuals the ability to volunteer their skills, because they have skills that social entrepreneurs need. As we know, and as I'm sure the other speakers here can confirm, social enterprises are typically constrained by their resources, and so having both financial and human capital is very important. So yes, we have this platform, and we also work with corporates to get their employees to volunteer their time to also develop sustainable solutions for social enterprises. And this is how we work to to support the overall ecosystem. And on a side note, from outside of We Make Change, I just finished my master's actually myself in sustainable development policy from Maastricht University in the Netherlands. And my thesis was on how can we bring more support to the ecosystem for social entrepreneurs in developing countries, and I particularly focused in on the financial aspects of that. So definitely would be keen to talk more about ecosystem development in general and such. So really glad to be a part of this today and to hear the insights from the other speakers too.
Thank you very much for the three of you and sharing and bringing your expertise and your experience here in this roundtable. I think that the perfect mix of the three of you is going to be super interesting to answer the following questions. And yeah, our first question was, so basically we want to say, okay, we haven't found yet a common agreed definition of social entrepreneurship. In your opinion, what is the definition that better describes this business approach? So Bart, if you want to go first, and then after maybe we can start the discussion, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So in academia, finding definitions, especially in social sciences, is challenging because in these social concepts, there's different ways in looking at it. But I think, okay, social entrepreneurship, it's at its core, it's about addressing pressing issues in a society. It's not just a business model, it's a passion, a mission, and a deep commitment to change other people's lives positively. For instance, the story of Muhammad Yunus. He started with lending $27 to some women in Bangladesh. And this act of faith birthed the Grameen Bank. And this totally restructured how we see microfinance, because it's now something that can empower individuals because they give money to the poor, and those poor people can start their own businesses with that money. So social entrepreneurship, it's about identifying those areas in society where there is an equilibrium, where people are marginalized, and where there's a solution that is desperately needed. It's about innovative approaches, not just in terms of technological business models, but also how we perceive and tackle those social challenges. But you have to remember, social entrepreneurship, it's more than just about good intentions. It requires a unique blend of passion, innovation, and practicality. It demands resilience, because many of those social challenges, when you're trying to resolve those, there will be plenty of setbacks, just like in a regular business. It requires a heart that truly believes in the possibility of a better world. So for specific definitions, I will not say one, because I found it too challenging. But yeah, I just try to explain it a bit. When I think about social entrepreneurship, what does it mean?
Thank you, Bart, for also explaining kind of like the origins and yeah, like the challenge of finding a definition. Constance and Chandler, do you want to add something? Feel free.
Yes, maybe Chandler, if it's okay, if I go first. Yes. So also thanks, Bart. This was a great summary, and also providing the feelings social entrepreneurs have to carry with them to be a successful social entrepreneur as it is. We have not only for the label, but generally also for our members, a very, very low-level definition that is focuses on really the core of social entrepreneurship, which has proven to be practical and is also based on the European Union Commission's definition, and also in the German-speaking area rather widespread. is to look at the word, to say we have social entrepreneurship. So we have in the core really very basically saying two strands. We have the entrepreneurship side and we have the social side. And as Bart said, what differs a social entrepreneur from a normal startup or business is that they found their business not to make profit, but to solve a societal issue or an ecological issue. So to provide added value to the society, to the community. So they identify a social or ecological problem, find a way to deal with it, and then to realize their project, they do not rely on donations or grants, but basically on the revenues they get from their activities on the market by selling products and services. But so they do make a profit, but the profit is not the first priority. It's impact first and not profit first. The profit is a means to achieve this impact, just another way of financing your impact. And by doing so, they are able to provide themselves with a more sustainable and autonomous financing situation, and also contribute to the economy as well.
Thank you, Constance, for specifying also the difference. And yeah, Chandler, if you want to add.
Yeah, of course. I think those are first two really great ways to kind of flesh out this definition. And it's a good question because as Bart mentioned too, in academia, you'll read paper after paper, which tells you different things. But overall, you get a sense that social entrepreneurship is, it's entrepreneurs who have a stated mission, which its goal is to create impact into sustainable impact. And that is the overarching goal. What I think is really interesting too, and we do dig into the definitions, especially talking about like Constance's the criteria like you were laying out. I will say like We Make Change, we do have very broad criteria as well. Like what do we identify social entrepreneurship as? But you'll read some things that say a social entrepreneur, a social enterprise is sustainable as long as they're making 60% of their own revenue, and they can sometimes get grant money, they can sometimes things, but these are definitions that are all very broad. And I think it really depends when you're speaking about social enterprises within Europe, in the context of Europe, as well as then in the context of places in Africa, for instance. So there's different definitions as you go as you look around the world. From the standpoint of our criteria, We Make Change, for instance, as you may have noticed, we also include impact startups. And so this is something that we found, we used to just say we work with social enterprises, and that was our main stated goal. But what we found was that so many entrepreneurs out there, they don't realize that they're social entrepreneurs. They don't understand that they actually are within this definition, or at least this broad definition. And so a way that we at least have aimed to try and be more inclusive for those is to say, well, you do typically identify themselves as a startup, for instance, and we can say, well, you're making impact as a startup. That is your goal as a startup. So I think sometimes when we're trying to create a solid definition, it's also it's all of us within the field that understand the broadness of this definition, but also then thinking outside of that for those who maybe aren't a part of this field or don't think they are or know they are. It's about how do we educate the rest of the world about these terms and about what what it means to be a social entrepreneur. And I think that's a good way to help to help spread the impact and build the ecosystem. I guess if I ended on that.
No, it's a great way to finish, actually embracing the broadness of the definition in order to be more inclusive for people who, exactly as you might say, don't realize that are having this impact to their businesses. So okay, this question was important for us because again, like while researching and while implementing the project, it was quite complicated also among the diversity of the partners that we have to actually agree on a specific pathway to follow the project, no? And like, but in a way, also it's directly related to our second question, that it's also important for the project, no? And for also transmitting it to the youth workers and the youngsters. So here it's like social impact or economic growth, as we were saying before, economic growth or social impact. Social entrepreneurship is usually presented as a form of doing business that, after all, results incompatible with creating economic wealth, the same way that the all business does. What is your view on it? Again, now if you want, we can start with Constance, and then we move with the rest of the perspectives, and we're gonna try to keep it with the time so we can have time for the rest. So Constance, if you want to take the floor.
Yes, thank you. I think economic growth or social impact does not necessarily collide. It's just a different view of putting emphasis on things. So when you look at social businesses, of course, their overall goal is to provide their impact. But as said, they also have a sustainable business model with which they finance this impact. Not only, I totally agree with you, Jen, that they can also draw on grants and other things like startups also do when starting. But the final vision should be to have a business model that basically sustains their activity. So this I think we are in line with that. So social entrepreneurs, or let's say money itself, when we have this economic wealth or economic growth as the main objective for lots of years now, and if we look at the goals of nations and the European Union, it's always about economic growth and growth of employment, and these things. Growth is very important. But if you look at economic growth, money itself does not have a value at all. It's a means to achieve or to realize other things. And if you look at the nationwide level, then or the goals that formulate that we need economic growth, they basically they want not the money, but they want such things as increased quality of life, prosperity, welfare, societies improving and developing. And these are all things that social entrepreneurs also achieve, but they achieve it directly and not via the diversion of money, because they directly aim at realizing a certain impact. So it's only a matter of how you look at the different returns. And if you say, of course, a classic business usually will have, not necessarily, but usually will have a higher return on investment and higher profits. But this money they generate is only, as I said, a means to achieve things like quality of life, prosperity, and such things that social entrepreneurs do directly, and in return they may have a little lower return on investment or profit. But I think this is only, but they provide therefore a higher social return, and these are only balanced things, and I think it needs both, because at least for the next 100 years or 200, 300 years, you need an economy that focuses also on profitability and a higher economic return. But you also need increasingly more also businesses who put the impact first, and both sides can profit from each other, because you need a classic economy that provides, for example, products and services that may not have this high social impact, but are just necessary for other things. And on the other hand, also the classic economy is increasingly trying to achieve their profit by means that are more sustainable, that are more social. And I think both goes hand in hand, and I think both sides can fit well together. Yeah, I think social entrepreneurs are just another important facet in a very heterogeneous society and economy. And I think nothing is worse than monocultures, as we all know from agriculture and sustainability. And I think the more colorful and the more diverse approaches are the better.
Thank you for the perspective and for reinforcing the idea that economic growth and social impact are not exclusive in a way, no, that they can correlate. Bart or Chandler, if you want to go and add something.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Constanza. Yeah, it's an interesting question as well. And I fully agree, I think, with Constanza as well. You know, social entrepreneurs, they have to be able to kind of operate within a system, within a current system, but while also trying to kind of change the paradigm of that system. So this is, you know, what social entrepreneurs are doing. From a very, maybe this gets more into more of the academia definitions again a little bit, but you know, when we look at social entrepreneurs, they're often, you know, confronted with hybridity. So they're forced by different tensions, societal tensions, economic tensions, cultural tensions, that they have to work between. Some of them are profit or impact. Some of them are they making sustainable choices in how they're reaching their revenue that they need to keep afloat. So I think the biggest thing that social entrepreneurs have to, that is challenging for them in regards to can they have economic growth as well as making social impact, is not having what we call mission drift. So this is drifting away from their stated original mission, which is we're going to do a sustainable business. We're going to have a sustainable mission, and to reach that mission, we're not going to drift away from our own morals, our own ethics that we've set forth as a sustainable social enterprise. So it's definitely a challenge, and I think that's where there's also a misconception that you can't have both, but I think you really can, and these entrepreneurs, they have to be able to walk that fine line realistically, and that, I think, you can then relate that back to the ecosystem as well as a whole. Social enterprises that are operating within different ecosystems, whether that be in ecosystems in the global south or here in Europe, you know, there's going to be different tensions that are pulling at them that can steer them off course. So I think that's the thing that you have to look into when you're looking more for the specifics of each entrepreneur. But Bart, please expand, because I'm sure you can as well enlighten on this topic too.
Yes, sure. Thank you for the floor. So yeah, I believe that it's not either economic growth or social impact. I think these things go together, because we're still living in a world where economic sustainability is important, because the business cannot continue if there's not enough financial means. For instance, take Tom's shoes as an example. They have their 1-for-1 model, where a pair of shoes is donated for every pair sold. And this is another example how businesses can be social impact in its core. You have both the economic perspective and economic sustainability, and then you also have the social value and the donation of those shoes to people in need. And many other social enterprises, they demonstrate this, that okay, you can have both. It's not the one or the other. Because, for instance, if you have only social impact, that's a government organization, right? But recently, also in academia, there came a new concept. It's called the social economy. And the social economy is a way to think about what are all the actors and factors involved in generating social impact and providing social services. And here, success is not just measured in financial terms, but also on the impact of the communities and the environment. There's a more holistic perspective on how businesses and governments can contribute to a vital, healthy society. And yeah, the social entrepreneurs, they have a key role in the social economy because they are one of the main actors that are providing the social impact, because they're combining the best of the two worlds and contribute to the greater good. And yeah, and this is a different way on how to look at the economy. It's also, yeah, include those social perspective, but you know, using the best things of both worlds.
Thank you very much for the three answers. I think it was super important because usually before starting the project, there was a lot of misconceptions on what is a social entrepreneur. And also thank you, Bart, for linking it to the social economy and like having this more holistic approach and combining both the best of both worlds. I like that. So yeah, thank you all three. And actually, like, now with this question, it also gives us the path to the third one, no, like this idea, this more maybe utopian or not idea of like, we would like a world in which social businesses would be the only way of doing businesses. Is this any way possible? Chandler, if you want to start this time.
Yeah, sure. It's another great question. I think I will say from my own experience getting into this field, you know, I think I've come to it from a place of, okay, I want to see the economies of the world make a huge shift. I want things to be, we want to see more businesses that are out there doing good, which can also be, as we've just been previously talking about, they can be sustainable, they can be providing impact, they can also fund themselves to keep going. You know, this is the idea of sustainability, holistically sustainability, not just the social side or the environmental side, but for the entrepreneur as well. I don't know if in the near future, at least, if we have this, if this is possible. I want to be optimistic about this, and I think if you're working in this field, you have to be. It's kind of like we're always at an uphill battle, and we're talking about sustainability challenges. Yet all of us that work in this field, we stick with it because we believe in it. We think it's going to work. We think it can work. I envision a society of eventually where even the large corporates of the world who don't have social mindsets, they don't have this integrated into their practices, which many of them are starting to do. You know, we do see a shift in that. We do see more corporate social responsibility, more ESG. This is also like the newest you know, hot terms in the corporate world, and these are working to help. I think these are working to help. And I hope that we can see an eventual society where those larger corporations have fully made the transition to being not social enterprise, well, maybe social enterprises, but in a very different sense, I would say. But ideally, I see that we can have a grassroots type of movement of social entrepreneurship globally that can start to make the shift in the economies that we have around the world, that can hopefully push that needle even further. And I think it's why I think I do, or we do, the other speakers here and maybe those who are in the call today. I think it's why we do this work, because we feel that we can actually make that change if we do embolden the small fish in the economy to be able to become you know, powerhouses eventually of social enterprise, and to bring sustainability to the world. So, and hopefully that just keeps pushing further and further, and that's where we can get to. So it's a weird question. It's a weird answer, but I don't think there's a straightforward one to give here. But please, I'd love to hear the rest, hear the others.
Constance,
I can just add up to or support Chandler by saying, so if you talk to social entrepreneurs, their main goal is to make themselves unnecessary. So in an ideal world, you wouldn't need a social entrepreneur because they tackle social problems or ecological problems. And if they have succeeded in their catalytic function in transforming our actual economy into an ideal economy, then you wouldn't need social entrepreneurs as they are seen today. But you would have economic players who would strive for economic for profit and for money, but on the same level look after societal values and impact and ecological ways of doing business and supporting their employees and their communities. So this would be the utopia of a successful social entrepreneurship development. And I think if you would have an economy that has only players that tackle social problems but do not tackle economic issues, then it would be not functioning. And I think in an ideal world, we have another economy, an economy where success and performance is not measured only by means of money, but also by the contribution they make to society and environment.
Thank you, Constance, for the insight. I would link this also to how meritocracy is seen nowadays, no? And like exactly what, if we relate the contribution that you put in society with only the money that you make, then what is this, like what would be the social contribution, no? But Bart, if you want to add to this question.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, like it has been said by Chandler and Constance, it's a bit of an utopia if we can imagine a world where all social challenges are addressed in some way. Can be by a social entrepreneur, by regular businesses, by the government. But this remains challenging because let me give you the example of in India. In India, the government made it mandatory for big corporations to spend a certain percentage of their revenue on CSR activities. All right, so all corporations, they had to include this in their budget and how their companies worked. But then when they were looking at the effectiveness of this, they saw that these companies were just spending the budget, not thinking very well on how to use this the best. Often there were also a lot of cases of corruption where they were trying to recycle this money in some way. Well, and that's a bit my point. It's difficult to obligate people to act in a certain way, and this is why I really believe in this project, because you are helping the people from a young age to believe that the social objectives, that they matter, they're important, and this helps in because the people here, they will be the CEOs of the future, right? The young people that are here, I hope. And I hope that these people now go into these businesses with a different mindset, a mindset that is more focused towards sustainability, towards improving the world, everyone contributing a little bit to the society in some way, even the big Amazon or the big companies like that. They all, from their own motivations, contribute to these social issues and environmental issues.
Thank you, Bart, for closing the question like this. I think it's also linked with what Chandler said at the beginning, you know, like the grassroots movement. No, of course, like important for like big corporations to do this shift and actually do it effectively, not only for the obligations that come from the government and the policies, but exactly like the awareness and the consciousness from the bottom. So thank you very much for the answers. We're going to move to the fourth one, that it's going to be agree or disagree statement. So it says, unlike traditional corporate businesses, social entrepreneurship ventures focus on maximizing gains and social satisfaction rather than maximizing profit gains. So here it's like, also it's linked with the fifth question that we're going to move later, but how is it like, how do you see this balance? Because we've been talking about this balance, but do you agree with the fact that it's social rather than maximizing profit gains? How do you see this balance? Bart, if you want to go first, and then we change.
Well, yes, social entrepreneurship, it's a blend of a social mission and doing business. It's about taking the best of the both worlds, like I said before, and to resolve real world problems. In academia, we say this is a hybrid approach. And this is what makes social enterprises this unique and powerful. Imagine a business like a garden. The goal is to grow, for regular businesses, the goal is to grow the most cheap fruit. But in social entrepreneurship, it's like growing a garden where every plant helps others to thrive. It's not about the fruit, it's about contributing to a community, contributing to a healthy garden that benefits everyone. For instance, you have Close the Gap, and their story, it's very inspiring. They refurbish IT equipment and then they send it to Africa and sell it, not donate it, they sell it to education projects. But this market price, the price of their products is much less than the market price of a second-hand laptop. And because of this innovative business model, they are again combining the best things of the two worlds. I think they are active now for 20 years, and they have donated over 1 million IT devices to the South. And this shows that in a social enterprise, every decision, every action, you have to look at it and think, okay, will this affect my social impact, or will this affect my financial sustainability? And the idea is to find an equilibrium to see how each decision can contribute to the effectiveness of the business as a whole, while also gauging the effectiveness of the two dimensions. But it does not mean that social impact, it's more important than the financial performance of the company. If there's too much preference on the social aspect, then the business will not be sustainable and the activities will stop and all the social impact related to it will stop. Therefore, it's essential to balance the two, to have the social impact supported by the financial sustainability of the company. But this hybrid approach it's very challenging, but it's also rewarding as a business manager, being able to manage both aspects and to see how your activities contribute to the world.
Thank you for the answer and for finding like what you were saying, no, like how to find the equilibrium for each decision to contribute to both dimensions. Chandler or Constance, do you want to add to the question?
Go for it, Constance.
Good. For me, it's free. If I look at the statement, I agree. So maybe just it's maximizing impact and not maximizing profits, but of course generating profits. That's the difference for me.
Yeah. So I think it also depends on the business model. I think with what Bart was saying too. Yeah, actually, I agree fully with both. With, of course, I think with Constanza and Bart, but maybe to give another example. It depends, as I said, it depends on the business model approach sometimes. But there's a startup or a social enterprise, that we work with called Era 92, and they're based out of Uganda. And their model is to provide IT, graphic design, software development skills to youth living in slums. And the way they do this, though, is that they of course they give training programs and they educate, but in order to fund what they do, they then actually utilize the skills that they're enabling their beneficiaries. They utilize those skills to then market themselves to corporates around the world to say, hey, we can also do your graphic design, your IT support, we can do your software development, we can do these things. And so for Era 92, their main goal is to maximize the social gain, right? They're trying to maximize gains socially for the beneficiaries of slums of youth in slums. But then they're also trying to maximize their profitability amongst their clients so that they can keep providing that social value towards their beneficiaries. So I think that it definitely depends. I guess the word here, which is hard to say whether if it's the right word or not, is maximizing. I think when we're talking about profit gains, because it's not necessarily about profit gains as Constanza says, but it's also not necessarily that these social enterprises, they can't try to have a sustainable profit and to sustainably generate their profits. So it's I guess with the statement, I'll go with I don't know, maybe if I necessarily agree, but I think it's somewhere in there. It's more nuanced, and it's just a good example though to see. If you look again at individual social enterprises, you can really dig into what their models are, and that will really help to define where they need to set their priorities. Of course, as Bart said though, you can't focus on just social impact, otherwise the sustainability of the organization will fail, and we see this a lot, unfortunately, I'd say, especially when you're looking at places, such as in Africa. You see that, for instance, in Ghana and in Kenya, they have huge populations of social enterprises. Massive amounts of social entrepreneurs are there. They're very much micro, I'd say, in their size for the most part. But one of the key things from my own research that I found was that many of these social entrepreneurs, they have amazing models to bring value and to bring social impact to their communities. Yet they typically falter in being able to be profitable enough to keep generating. And so then they get reliant on other things like grants or fundraising, which again, that then starts to steer them away out of maybe the definition of a social entrepreneur. So these things are kind of all connected, as you can see, some of these questions, but it's just an interesting thing to look at the different social entrepreneurs around the globe, what their particular situations are and what their ecosystems are like around them, to help them to be able to meet both needs of social satisfaction and also profit gains. So I'll leave it on that.
I will add a little bit
please
because
do.
there are so many interesting thoughts now. I think it's I agree with the statement was on having this word maximizing. Yeah, of course, social businesses have to strive for profit, so otherwise they wouldn't be social businesses. So, but I think it's and normally, if the two things do not collide, they can do both. Yeah, it's no problem. What I was thinking, or I had in the back of my mind, that the situation when maximizing gains, impact gains, and maximizing profit gains start to collide, and this is where the differences between a social business and a classic business. A classic business which nowadays also strive for sustainability and fair treatment and so on and so forth. Many of them, not all. But if it collides with profit, then they go for the profit. And a social business should, if profit maximization collides with the impact, decide itself for the impact. So let's say if I had this case with a social business in Austria. She produced snowboards out of old skateboards. So it was an ecological thing. And she did this with employees who had been at prison. And now it was a labor market reintegration thing as well. And so they had their first job with her because other companies wouldn't employ them because they had this track record, this criminal track record. And she was very successful, and a large investor came, and it was really tricky because it was a point where she had to decide scale or to close down at all, because then it became more difficult. And the investor said, yes, it's a great thing. You have a well-known brand and everybody loves this. But you know, you're not profitable enough for us because you're working with this material that has to be recycled, and it's like it takes a lot of time, a large process, and then you have this workforce that is not so productive like a very professional, highly skilled workforce. So please, either you take just normal material, or best of all, you skip these criminal people and take perfectly skilled workforce. And she said no, because this is my mission, and I won't do this. And therefore she decided to stay as small as she were. Of course, you can then say, yeah, wouldn't it have been better to skip one of the two things and at least have the impact on the other side? That's a decision to the individual, I would say. But I think in such difficult cases, when you have to decide to go for productivity or for impact, then you should more go for the impact. And therefore, the overall notion for me is that to maximize the impact in conflict situations should be above all.
Thank you.
Of course,
Oh,
always. Oh, sorry. Of course,
No.
always having in mind that you have to achieve profit. Yes, but it's on the maximizing thing, because if you have no profit at all, you have to close down, and then the impact is also gone. It's the maximizing word.
I think with what you just said, it's like super linked to the following question, because well, I'm gonna show the following question. It's not like when this coalition comes, no, I mean, it's not specifically with the coalition of maximizing impact or economic. It's what about measuring them, no? And like in a way, with before the coalition of the two dimensions in general, like how can we measure then successful social business in terms of like, okay, profit is accountable, but like when it comes to social impact, how do we measure social impact in general? That's also one of the unanswered questions that we have. So yeah, if you wanna develop, I think Chandler, you can go, and then we move to the.
Oh, okay. Yep. Well, yeah. Measuring successful social business. I think this is the when you look at impact in general, not even just within the field of social entrepreneurship, measuring impact is probably one of the hardest things to do globally. NGOs trying to measure their impact, social entrepreneurs trying to measure their impact. Of course, with profit, yeah, you can account for this. You can check the margins, you can do all these things. But with the impact, it again depends on who your beneficiaries are, I think. So you have to look at who are those beneficiaries. Are you working as a social entrepreneur within a small community where most of your primary beneficiaries are just the community members? If so, then you can maybe measure what is the impact of your model on, you know, improving their livelihoods or improving the ecology that they live in. You know, so these are things that you can maybe measure more easily. When you're looking at a social enterprise who is trying to convert plastics into a new product or something like that, and you know, where are they sourcing their plastics from? Are those plastics coming just from local areas? Are they coming from places around a whole country or internationally? You know, it gets a lot more messy. You know, how do you actually measure that impact if we've collected X amount of plastic waste from a varied amount of places? So, you know, it starts to become more difficult. So again, again, I think the notion of looking more at the individual social enterprise and their mission and where they're sourcing their resources for meeting that mission, that's going to be a factor. And of course, then who are the beneficiaries that they're primarily working for. And so again, there's no straightforward answer, I don't think, but this is how you can maybe begin to look at a framework for how can you start to measure these things. Realizing that what I just said is very basic, it gets way more complex, I would say. So,
but it's a start to understand. So and also to summarize it with the time that we have. So thank you very much, Chandler. So Constance or Bart, Constance, or
Yeah.
if you.
It is, as Chandler said, it's a very complex issue. It's not unsolvable, and you have to start on the level where you want to your impact to take place, which is, if you're a social impact, then it's normally on the level of the people, and if it's an ecological impact, at least you have now on the ecological side some rather meanwhile well-known common indicators. The CO2 reductions does not work always, but it's often it's a very helpful thing. So then you can compare different activities of different companies. But on the social side, definitely you have to look or to think. And this has to be done, as Chandler said, on an individual level, depending strongly on your impact model and on your beneficiaries. You, as a business or a social entrepreneur, and this is also what I always say to our social entrepreneurs, you're in the favorable position. You can choose for yourself how you want to be measured, or by which means you want to be measured. But this is a very important work. You have to do this intelligent work before to look at your impact logic, look at your beneficiaries, look at what you want to achieve, look at your social goals, and then decide which are and this is also what I said, what are your 2 to 3 or 4 indicators, not more, because that's also frequently the problem or the mistake that the social businesses start to collect so many different indicators, and then they are not they cannot regularly collect the data for these indicators, because if you have 20 indicators and you need 30 surveys and secondary research and whatever to every year find the values for your indicators, you can't do your business anymore. So I say, please look for 2 to 3 indicators who best represent the impact you want to achieve, and then very thoroughly measure the values for these indicators. And this is, as Chandler said, frequently done if it's for social things by surveys or interviews, and collecting qualitative and quantitative data by means of these surveys, interviews, or focus groups, whatever suits the respective indicator. But if you have done this intelligent work first, then it's rather easy to repeat it every year. But you have to dig into the social problem you want to solve very deeply, and take a thorough analysis of this problem and how it works and what you want to achieve with your impact activities, and then look for key performance indicators, social key performance indicators in this respect, that align best with the social goals of your business. For example, access to education or health things or well-being, as Chandler already said, and try to measure this. And then you have also a means to communicate that you achieve the core of your goals, which is providing impact also externally.
Thank you, Constance. Bart, if you want to finish with the question, with your insights.
Yes, sure. Yeah, impact management is very challenging, right? But there are 2 perspectives to it. First, you have the idea, okay, that it's important because because it allows the creation of specific models like social procurement. And this is a model where the government says, okay, if you're a social enterprise, you can do these activities for us. And that means that there needs to be a sort of a kind of a label. But then you have the other side of the story, and that says, okay, these social entrepreneurs, they are already very busy in conducting their business, and giving them again very restrictive, very time-consuming things to do, like measuring their impact. It stretches those individuals, because they should be busy with their social innovation. They should be managing their company, not measuring impact. Right, and in terms of measuring impact in academia, there's a theory that's called the theory of change, right? And this is a structured way on how to look at social innovation. And it first looks at the company itself, and then at the beneficiaries. So what are your inputs, and what are your most important activities? And then you look at what is the output. For instance, you can have as an output, this many people found a job because of you. And then you can look at an outcome. Okay, because these people found these jobs, they could feed their families. And that's then, again, also the impact, right? It's like, as been said before, measuring social outcomes, it's quite difficult, because this is more difficult to quantify. But if you apply some sort of a theory of change, it's easier to look at it and easier to quantify, because some social impacts are bigger than the other. Right?
Thank you very much for introducing us the basics of the theory, and exactly like how difficult it is, the quantification of the social outcome, and exactly, and the ramifications it has as well, no, like from like this spillover effect of like the social impact. So yeah, thank you very much, because this was like kind of like the closing question to understand a little bit more the grounding basis of social entrepreneurship. And in a way, with like the 5 minutes left that we have for the roundtable, we wanted to just ask if in the following 5 minutes before we move to the Q&A, what guidance would you offer to youth workers when mentoring young individuals in social entrepreneurship? How can they exactly like cultivate these qualities for their success in the field? Chandler, if you want to start.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll try to be really brief then. I would start with, youth today are so much more informed about the issues we have globally. I will say I'm only 32, but even when I was young, I didn't have nearly the amount of understanding of what's going on in the world. Today, youth, I think they're armed with a lot of information, but I think they need to know how they can best put that information and put that to use. And exploring entrepreneurship, even with those who may not become entrepreneurs themselves, I believe it creates a mindset. It helps to develop their mindset that they can create these big changes if they want to. And so exploring that with them and helping them to understand, I think is key. From a stance of how can you actually cultivate, technical skills and personal qualities, I guess, maybe more from the technical skills side. I would say that, like, not to Brandon, we make change in this exactly, but what we do is we help volunteers, which are mostly young students who are looking to get more skills. We help them to be able to also build their skills and build these qualities, and so they get to work with entrepreneurs, with social entrepreneurs directly, and learn from them, but also help them. So I think these are, doing matching. I believe what you guys are going to also do later on in this project, matching youth with social entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, is probably a really good way to help to get them to understand that change can be made, and it's not such a big uphill battle as it might seem you know, as the youth might feel today, that it's maybe impossible for things to really change for the future. So I hope that just that's my only little quick bit on that, I guess.
Definitely, it helps. It helps and inspires. So thank you. Do you want to close also with the question, Bart or Constance?
Yes. Yes, please. Yeah, I think education is key here, and education at different levels, not only at the university. Yeah, at the university, there are already many business classes being taught. And I think it's also important to start even sooner with this. For instance, in the Netherlands, on our project, we're already at the elementary school, they're teaching social entrepreneurship. They because it's such a transversal field. When you when you give these students a social entrepreneurship project, they learn many different skills. For instance, IT skills, communication skills, and also problem-solving skills. And this is very important. And another role, universities, and it's something that I learned from Latin America, it's community service learning. There in many universities, you have special kinds of internship, which is framed as community service learning. You as a student will be sent out in the field, and you'll have to find a social problem or a community thing where you will help those people in improving their business or in helping them address social challenges. And I think here in Europe, we have many things to learn from that as well, because here you have these regular internship where you just work in a company. But what does this teach you about how to give back with the community? Barely something. Therefore, I think there are many different ways and how to mentor individuals, but we have to look at it from the very beginning, I think, and also to integrate more these social and community aspects.
Thank you, Bart, for the question. And one of the things that we totally agree from like the SESI ideology is that, again, like it's not that we want to impose like an entrepreneurship mindset, or that we want all youngsters to be social entrepreneurs, but exactly, like maybe learning by doing and learning by experiencing. And it's super interesting when you mentioned about the community service learning. So yeah, thank you very much for the answer. And we're gonna close with Constance, if you have to add, Constance,
Yes.
to the question.
So what I would say to young people who would think about going into social entrepreneurship is that they should get to know the social problem they want to address, that they really, really should understand the social problem they want to address, that they should work with the beneficiaries, with the people that are affected by the social problem, because not just once I've talked to aspiring young social entrepreneurs who said, "Oh, I have this great solution for targeting whatever poverty in this area, and it needs this and that." And then I said, "Look, please talk to the people who you want to bring out of poverty, and because I think all what you are trying to do won't help them because they have other problems." And it was the case. So they told her then what they really needed, and now she has a very, very well-functioning social business with lots of impact. So I think this understand your social problem is a very, very important thing. And then, of course, as Jen also said, there are several skills that help. And it was also highlighted by Bart. So impact management, you have to know the basics of impact management, of impact logic, of impact measurement, theory of change. So if you want to achieve an impact, you have to structure it accordingly and to think it through. You should at least know the basics of social business modeling, means how to relate the classic business model with an impact model and such thing. And of course, on the personal side, because this is also a thing I frequently encounter, is that you have to be able to draw a line as a social entrepreneur. You have to know the social problem, but it's not your social problem, and you shouldn't go into it, or you should keep a certain distance and look after your work and life balance, because many social entrepreneurs, because they really want to help their beneficiaries, and they're poor people or people with other problems or young people who need education or support. Then if I don't work 24 hours a day, another young person is still in poverty or whatever. So they tend to work too much, and then they burn out more easily, which is not very helpful for the impact, because then they can't function at all. So work-life balance is really, really important, because it's a real danger. And relates a little bit to this, try to start your business as a team, because then you're not alone, and the burden is not on your shoulder alone, and you can share competences, and everything is better in a team.
I think that the three last conclusions were super interesting and inspire also, like, how can we approach the project as also like being in contact with youth workers, specifically with what you've been saying, like talk to the people, like understanding the social problem and staying with the problem from the inside, not trying to impose it in a way from a privileged position. So yeah, thank you very much for the insights. We're gonna keep all of this for the project and for the future. And yeah, in a way, this was the last question for the roundtable. I hope also it was I hope it was interesting for you. Sorry, my presentation. For you as speakers. And I know that we don't have a lot of time. Actually, we have like 7 minutes, but if people from the audience have some questions or like insights that they would like to share, we would be super happy to listen. Thank you, Ines. Yeah, you can go.
Hello. Well, thank you everyone for everything you shared. It was really, really, I don't know how to describe it, but to me personally, it was really interesting. I have one question, because I would like to ask you, what do you think, all of you or whoever wants to answer, what do we need to make social entrepreneurship more understandable towards general society? Because the feeling that I have, it's at least here in Spain, and I'm based in Spain, is that many times it's confused with non-profit organizations, or many times, or other times you may be seen as you are trying to take advantage of a social problem, like why are you trying to obtain profits from this? So I know it's like a whole, like a long way, long road ahead, but I wanted to know like about your thoughts about this, if you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Ines, for the super interesting question. If Bart, I see your mic open, so, or if you wanna, yeah, you can jump.
Please. Thank you for the interesting question, Ines. And that indeed is a challenge to make sure that people know what we exactly mean with social entrepreneurship. I remember the story of someone I know that went in the United States to tour as a social entrepreneur, and then people thought that she was a communist because of the word social in it. But then, yeah, I think education plays an important role, and also being clear. Yeah, people have to be clear about what their objectives is, and that it's not just about these the profit, but also about the social impacts, and be honest. And like, okay, I am taking profit from my business because it's my business, but still, I'm also resolving social challenges. And I think these examples, when they come in the media, I know in the Netherlands, they come very often in the media, and there people are very well, they know very well what the social entrepreneur means, because they have this bill on had this bill on the social entrepreneurship as a legal entity. Yeah, and I think there's different ways on how to make sure that people know what you're talking about.
Yes, I agree with you, Bart. I think in the long term, education is the crucial thing. For more short term successes, it's as you also said, the visibility, and which is really important is that at least you have a commonly agreed upon understanding, at least in your country, what social entrepreneurship is. That there is not too much discussion about the nuances of, is it more 50% of that and 30% of that, but just social entrepreneurship basically is achieving impact as an entrepreneur, whatever you want to but it has to be a commonly agreed upon definition, and then you need respectively you need public recognition. At least I can only talk from our Austrian experience. The breakthrough really was this verified social enterprise label. Yeah. Because we had, first of all, we had a commonly agreed upon definition, at least 3 very basic criteria, what makes a social entrepreneur to apply for this label. Then we had the media coverage due to the label because it was issued by a minister. Then we had, for the first time, or the almost time, we had social entrepreneurship on the political discussion because other ministries talked about this and started, what's that? And we had, and it was not longer deemed a fancy niche, but it became more acceptable. And yeah, if the Minister of Economy says there is a label for them, they must be good. They must be economic. And therefore it was the decision from us not to go for the social ministry, because social entrepreneurs do not always do social things that relate to the social ministry. But in the core, they are all entrepreneurs with a focus on impact. So it's the Minister of Economics who, at least to our understanding, was the right ministry. And the other ministers, because they have the Ministry for Economy, for Environment and Labor Market and whatever, they also are interested, but you have to have one ministry who covers all and has the coordination, and this helps.
Thank you very much for the 2 questions. I know that, Chandler, you would have an amazing answer, but I know that you also have to leave. So I don't know if you want to add a sentence or...
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to leave for another event here in just a minute, but I'll just do it in a quick way. Basically, you know, I'm confronted with this question all the time, and when I'm asked, you know, what is social enterprise, I typically put it in a very simplistic terms. And of course, we've made this more broad and we've gotten into the details today. But simplistically, I usually say, well, it's a business that has a social or environmental mission at its heart, and that's its main stated goal. And that's what they want to do. It's impact, typically over profit. It should be, but you know, this is how I at least say it in a single sentence, and then it usually gets people to start thinking, oh, okay, that sounds different. Okay, I like that. Okay, so hopefully that can help a little bit in your challenge there. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. By the way, I unfortunately have to jet, but thank you so much for hosting this YouthProAktiv, and to the other speakers here, Constanza and Bart. It's a pleasure speaking with you guys both as well, and hope we can actually interact some more here. I guess we will. So looking forward to it.
Hopefully. Thanks for having me here too.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, Marina.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Andrew, for being
everyone.
Here. Bye. Thank you. I take advantage to promote like the 2 webinars that we're gonna have in January. I'm gonna send you a closing email with the information and the registration if you want to join. I wish we had more time to discuss, but I think it was also interesting to focus on the roundtable and exactly like have this rounding basis. But for sure, for the next webinars, we'll try to have more time for the Q&A.
Marina, do we have time to take the question of Erica still, or is it too late? I think I saw her hand up. I don't know if you still want to ask it.
I have to leave, by the way.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe you can answer it, but I have to leave. Thank you very much. I really love being on this panel. I'm happy to be involved with the next stages. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Bart. I also saw the message. Well, Erica, if you wanna ask, I can stay for 5 more minutes if also Constanze wants, but exactly like for the people who need to leave, we completely understand. Thank you for being here and for the participation. And I also see that Sergio, it would be amazing. I'm gonna share with you the document of the collection of best practices and also like the main ideas of the project and the insights after this reflection, because it would be super nice with your experience and expertise to contribute to the project. Super nice of you. Thank you very much. Well, of course, if you want to jump and use the mic, both Erica or Sergio, feel free to do so.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm here with Ines, but I'm using her microphone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It was just a quick comment and gratitude too for this space. When Ines was asking about how to describe this, I actually wanted to comment what Bart had said about the garden. I actually thought that this was a really great figure or metaphor that we can use as well, because in preparing the collection of best practices, what we're seeing is that this idea of generosity and collaboration and open source is something that is characteristic of social entrepreneurship as well, that kind of goes against the traditional business model that we're used to seeing. And so that's just something that I wanted to share. I thought it was very inspiring, this idea of thinking of social business as a garden where we're all helping each other to thrive. So thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Bosco, if you could mute your, it would be, sorry, yeah. Thank you very much, Erika, for the reflection. I also loved it, and many other examples that were mentioned. But it's true that it's really inspiring also for collecting it with the connecting it with the project.
The pity part can hear it now.
But yeah, if there are no more insights or questions, we understand that you all have your commitments and your timings. So again, thank you for being here. We're going to be sharing the information and also the form if you didn't have the chance or the time to complete it at the beginning of the forum, that it's going to be super helpful for us if you could answer for the app development of the project and for the rest of the activities. So yeah, in the name of YouthProAktiv and the consortium of the project, thank you for your time, and hopefully it was interesting for you. And see you. Here you have in the chat the Google Forms. Thank you, Bosco. In any case, I'm going to send it to the follow-up email, and same with the presentation. And yeah, thank you. And hopefully we see each other in January for the next webinar. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.